Hi, everybody. How are you doing? I'm Dr. Gail, and this is Monique. And thanks for joining us today.
Hi.
Monique is here to talk about a couple of books that she's written that she's going to show us here in a minute while everybody's coming in. And then we're going to be talking about the reptilians today. We're going to be talking about the reptilians that are in the fourth dimension that are causing us the chaos and everything that's going on in our lives. And Monique has had a lot of experiences with the reptilians, and she's had the dark and the light experiences. So that's why we have named the show what it is. And so she's got lots of stories and books that she will be talking about the reptilians. And let me say hello to some people coming in there. Hey, Akila. Hey, Diane G. Hey, Faye Cole. Thanks for joining us today. Moody, do you have your books available where they can see your books?
I do. But this is more of a positive reptilian. This is my series, and it was written as fiction, but it's got a lot of truths in it. It's called When Life and Dreams Meet. And it did have underneath The Awakening of an Ancient God, but when we redid the book cover, it didn't. So I was like, well, it just have to do.
Was the book cover hard to do to get it right?
Yeah, well, what it was is, well, I guess because I had never worked with AI art, and I had to, but the original cover I have, which darn, I don't have it with me, and I don't want to get up to get it.
Right.
My daughter, when she was 15, 16, because this book's probably about going on 3 years old now, but when we first did it, she's really good at art, and she did an amazing cover, but it wasn't going to match the other covers. So I was advised that it would be better to have the covers all kind of looking the same, because then I wrote the second book, and this is called Sobek's Return, and it looks a little more intimidating there, but the only reason for that is for the fiction part, I wrote Sobek as a little bit of a villain, and then but he has this transformation, and the messages I got was actually that it was never him. It actually comes from my own past, and I was actually had a life where I was dark and transformed, and that. So, and then I have the third book, and this one is called Rise, Story of a Demigod. It's all part of the When Life and Dreams Meet series, and I created the cover. The second one, I didn't create the cover. I actually had paid someone because I didn't know enough about AI art, but I was very proud about this one. I created this guy. I was like, he's a hottie.
Well, let's see. Hello. Hey, Emmy J. Hey, Dream Journey One. Hey, Em. Hey, Rossi. Thanks for being here today. Hey, Teresa. Hey, Seascape. Hey, RLC. Hey, Sodawat. Thanks for being here today. And today we are talking about the reptilians. And Monique has years of experiences with them, good and bad. And so we're going to be getting into a little bit about that. So you have been throwing the word around to everybody, the Shelvik, right? And so they don't know who that is. So
okay. Yes, of course. I tend to forget because I talked about him so much.
Yeah.
I've actually, and he is to me a beautiful reptilian being, despite what people think, because I can explain that why. There's two different histories on him. He is an Egyptian. You have the whole ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses kind of things. And by the way, I was told when I was writing these books, I had a very strong message, because a lot of these in books are downloads and stuff, that was a human term, being called gods and goddesses, that they were really just very advanced ETs that were, instructed to come and help evolve the human species. But then when their time was done, they had to go. and because the humans needed to be able to evolve on their own. So I wanted to make that part clear. However, I can tell you for me, I first, gosh, since I was practically in diapers, I've been having these dreams of these. I would always find myself in this beautiful, calm water in some ancient place with palm trees and sand, and then I would see a this. I don't know. It wouldn't have been concrete, but whatever they used, like when they did the pyramids and stuff. The stone bridge, and it's actually it's crumbling and goes down into the water. And I would always see this same place, and then I would see myself swimming, and these massive rocks would be all around me. Just huge, and like I'd have one on each side, I'd have them underneath me, and my conscious mind would only be freaked out because I'm thinking they can eat me, but they never did. They never did. But it was just that whole, so I was like, gosh, why am I always having these dreams? And I've had them like my entire life and not knowing what it was. And then things started coming up. I ended up becoming meeting with an Egyptian man through a mutual friend. We got married, and all these things started happening when I went over to Egypt, and that everything was connecting, everything was making sense. And I remember the first time I was there.
Were you going, this is physically going to your
Egypt? Yeah, physically. I did. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and it was weird because I remember my first visit there, and I didn't know why I had said it, but it just came out of my mouth. And I said, for the first time, I finally feel like I know who I am. So, but I want to say real quick too, when it comes to Sobek, there's, because this is really important. There's two different.
Did you even say who he was?
Yes, he's the god of fertility. I'm sorry, he's from the ancient Egyptian mythology or whatever, but not so mythology. He is the god of fertility, and there's two different histories on him, and they contradict. And I'm like, because you hear all this good stuff, and then it's like, then you hear this other, and I got freaked out at first because I was like, am I communicating with a good being? But I kept feeling like, he does feel good. He does feel right.
What does he look like?
Well, I have the statue.
Okay.
Can
you hold that up again? I don't think people had a chance to look at it. Can you turn it to the side? Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm being too quick. So, that's what he looks like. Of course, I have him on my book, but I don't have the, the thing on his head there. Right. But I found out.
So so what is he? You got two personalities.
He's of the good. And in fact, the correct history. The funny thing is, when I started writing this series and that, because I felt he was good, I had somebody out of nowhere contact me on YouTube all the way from Indonesia, wanting to make sure I did not demonize him. Making sure that I understood that he actually fought against the dark and that he was not for the dark. And I got the downloads of why there's two different histories. He was being impersonated by the god of chaos, Apep. And sometimes Apep is a serpent being, right? A massive serpent, right? And sometimes it said he would appear with a croc head. Okay. And it was so interesting because I didn't know any of that when I was getting these messages in my head. And an experience, which I'll talk about later, I actually had, before I knew any of this, I had an image that freaked me out. It was very dark, and was mocking him, and I saw like military style out, a jacket on him and a tail. And whenever I've had dreams or visions or anything with Sobek, there's never a tail and that. So I do know that this was not him.
Yeah.
It was somebody impersonating him.
Right, here's Rossi saying, in ancient Egyptian religion, a god of fertility and harvest, embodiment of the masculine principle. He was also worshipped as the lord of the eastern desert.
Yes.
Thank you, Ross.
Yeah, and he actually loved the humans. He had great empathy, but unfortunately, because there's that other contradicting history, so that's why some people think, oh no, he's terrible, he's this, that, and the other, but he's not. He really isn't. And if you look too in the history, Sobek and Ra were very close, and Ra is like the sun god, and overall, like the gods and goddesses and all that. And from my understanding, from Ra's positive, so it wouldn't make any sense. And Apep is the enemy of Ra. Apep was always trying to start trouble with Ra. So if Sobek was more along the lines of Apep, he wouldn't.
Look what Diane's saying. The gods, goddesses are beings who have been able to integrate their dark aspects and turn them into light. Very interesting energy.
Yep. So there you go. Yeah.
So that's basically what you're talking about. Even if he had some negative things, he was able to turn it into the light.
Yeah. I like I said, he just beautiful being, totally resonates.
So let's talk about your experiences with him now that we've kind of got a feel of who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So how did it start with you? How did it when was first contact?
Well, first contact, like I said, was back when I was a very little girl back in Miami. I was maybe 4 years old. And I would have these dreams at least once a month. As I got older, I started having them more often. And then it wasn't until I met my husband through a mutual friend that I started, when I got over to Egypt, I got this message that was telling me that there was a bigger reason why I had to go to Egypt, and it didn't have to do with my husband. And then I went and the first time I was there, I got into Giza, and this is really weird. I went to Giza to the pyramids, and my husband and I was tripping out because I didn't know nothing about with the kind, I'd never been there, so I didn't know what to expect. It was so crowded, not by tourists, by locals. And I remember my husband saying, it's like all of Egypt has come here today. What's going on? All the locals were there. On my very first trip there, they were all like just in droves coming to the pyramids.
Well, here's White Dragon. He's saying he always sees the gods as a version of the Anunnaki ETs with agendas.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your first experience then with them. You had it at 4 years old, and then you went to Egypt, and then that opened you up to them. So then what happened after that?
Then it wouldn't be until my second trip to Egypt that I had it was right before coming there, I felt like I had to go meditate on the pyramid, on the Great Pyramid. I didn't know why, but I was just like, I thought maybe I have Lyme disease, and I thought maybe I was going to get a healing or something. So, and I want to point this out real quick. This is really interesting. Okay, the desert and where the pyramids and stuff are, there's like a little waistline wall. Okay, the minute that I stepped over, now maybe it's because I'm just really, really, really I'm highly sensitive to energy changes and shifts.
Mhm.
So, but the second that I stepped over from the city, because the city butts up right to the desert and the pyramids, it was as if I had literally entered a higher vibration, a different, almost like a euphoric dimension. So I wanted to point that out. That was just amazing. But I went and I meditated on the Great Pyramid, and all of a sudden I felt like all of a sudden this image had popped in my head, and it was very bright and golden white light. And I saw Sobek, but I saw just like the side image of him, and his eye was closed. And then I apologize. I have a dog.
Oh, we all do. We all experience that.
And she barks whenever. And anyways, I heard the word awakened, and I saw the eye had opened, and I felt like that was such a powerful and amazing message. And
Was it a reptilian eye or a regular eye?
the Egyptian eye, you know, that
Okay.
yeah. I saw that on, and I just heard the word awakened, and I was like,
Mhm.
okay. And that's why I originally had that on my book, The Awakening of an Ancient God, because kind of tied in with my experience there. And then after that, I started, it was probably when I was on the plane and I was heading back, and I did a big no-no because I hate flying. I petrified of flying. I hate it because I don't like turbulence. So I had Klonopins, and I'm only supposed to take one, but I get so anxious, so I popped two and drank a glass of wine. Yeah. And so I was going in and out of consciousness. And every time I was going out of consciousness, I would see him, and he just had such the sweetest message. And he said, my beautiful Monique, or whatever, I will protect you. And it was just, and then it was like after that, different things started happening. The craziest being, I have this bag of stones here. I keep them in a bag, and I keep them there by the statue. It was when I was writing my second book, and there's a part in the book where I wrote about this dress being made with tiny precious stones. And sorry, my son was trying to call, and I just muted it, but it's fine. I just probably wanted to talk, and I can't talk right now. But after I wrote that part in the book, oddly, these precious stones, and it was around the time of my birthday. It was just like a couple weeks prior to my birthday. I started finding in my yard, not just rough, some were polished, some were rough, precious stones in my yard, usually by where I'm feeding the ducks, because I always feed the ducks. And they were always here, like down by my feet. And I ended up finding 9 stones, and my birthday is March 9th. So it was just really, really interesting. But
let's go back to we've skipped over all the first book, and you went to the second book.
I'm sorry. I just didn't want to forget to tell that part.
So what happened with after your contact in the airplane, and what brought you to writing your first book?
Okay. What brought me to writing my first book was, the funny thing is sometimes I'm oblivious about things. And it's like I was getting this contact, but wasn't really paying attention to it, right? Mm-hmm. So when I left Egypt, I felt in such a deep depression of homesickness for Egypt, and I didn't know why. Because I've never, anywhere else I've traveled, I never felt that. But here, I just really was feeling sad about being away from there. Like I left my home, right? So then one night I went to I had heard about, it came up online or something about that the Unity Church in Fruitland Park, which is at a town not far from where I live, was going to be having a psychic come in and do, if you're lucky, you get picked out in the audience. And so I was like, yeah, what the heck, I'll go and see what happens. Well, I happened to be one of the people that was picked out. And she said, Spirit is telling me you need to be writing a book, and I'm like, book? And I didn't want to write about, I was like, what am I going to write about? I mean, I like to write little fantasy stories to myself for fun and that, but I thought, I don't really want to write about my life, which funny thing is now I'm writing about my life only because I've had people tell me, you need to write about your life. You need to write. I'm like, okay. But that's kind of basically, I had no idea what I was doing. I was very unsure about it, but I just started. And then I just really became so, I don't know. I got to where I would be writing from day to night.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I just came
Can
really
you talk about the experiences that you're putting in this book, or what sparked for you to write it?
well. A lot of it. The funny thing is, well, a lot of it was based on things that had happened. Of course, the croc dreams being one of them. The girl in this book. Now, while I'm not her, a lot of her characteristics relate to me because she was the one that, of course, I didn't look like her. She's like, looks like a model, but, you have to do that for book's sakes and that. But she was like this gorgeous woman, and she felt she never could relate to people. No matter how hard she tried, she just always didn't fit in that. And that's totally been my life. But being on the spot right now, I apologize. My mind's kind of going blank with, there's so many experiences in there. There's different characters.
There had to have been a first initiating experience besides Egypt. Was there anything that started with
definitely besides the dreams, the meditation, seeing Sobek, in there. I had always been a writer. I started off as a singer, songwriter, that kind of thing. But I feel like,
well, what I'm asking is, you're worried about your experiences with them.
Oh, okay, yeah. We're talking about. Are you talking about the darker side? I'm sorry, I get caught up with the light.
Whatever experiences.
Okay. Well, the darker half, unfortunately, was that from childhood, on top of, like, I had sleep paralysis so bad. Always from the time pretty much when I was a baby. And some were good. I mean, not good, but like weren't as frightening as others. And others were petrifying. I was seeing these very, very scary beings. And I kept hearing, join us. But it wasn't join us like they wanted to end me. Join us like they wanted to awaken, something dark from maybe when I had a dark past life. Mm-hmm. And I remember just a firm no, never, I won't. And that was when I was very little. And so in the book, in that, basically, I paint Sobek a little bit as a villain, and that he has this, it's kind of a love story. And
let's talk about your experience. Let's talk about going with that experience. What happened with being dark as a child? What happened after that?
Well, what happened was I was becoming very isolated, feeling very vulnerable, feeling very and I couldn't tell anybody. I couldn't tell anybody what was going on. I mean, these dreams were so horrifying that even for adults, everybody's always telling me, I don't know how you got through it. because it sparked to later seeing physical manifestations. And I couldn't tell a soul. My family
Physical manifestation
of these dark beings.
okay, and how they show up. What do they look
Well,
like?
oh gosh. Well, to make themselves appear more scary, it's funny how they put, like, when you see some of these movies, of course, back then they didn't have movies like this, but I was already seeing these things with unnaturally widened smiles. They were, their skin looked all, how do I put it? Very decaying and just really spooky looking, very rigid and scaled. And I remember their eyes, and that their eyes were like they were piercing you, you know? And I can't describe it, but if you have a feeling, I don't know how to explain fear, but let's take fear to a whole nother level. And that, like, if my hair could have gone completely white from those experiences, that would have definitely happened. I cannot tell you the amount of fear that they inflict.
So how many years did this go on?
Oh, gosh. Well, it went on until the, how do I put it? The grand finale. I hope this is okay to mention.
How old were you at the grand finale?
I was 17. I had just turned 17, and I was violently assaulted by two men. And I remember that before all that happened, there was something like I could physically see, and I know that it's going to sound weird, but like in my physical vision, it was like a dark, foggy, cloudy mist. Like I couldn't see clear. Mm-hmm. And then what that was prior to it happening. And then when these men that did this, they didn't even look, I mean, it was like they looked deformed and everything. The pain, then it was the physical pain, and they were planning to murder me.
I'm sorry you went through all that.
Yeah, I'm very lucky to be alive.
How are you associating that with these dark entities? Did you think that was them in human form?
Oh, I knew it was.
Okay.
I knew it was.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And they were going to murder you because you were not joining them. Is that correct?
Basically, yeah.
So then what happened after that incident? Because it had to have turned you around, because you said that was your last bad incident with them.
It was.
That was their last hurrah to try to get you to join them.
Right. Well, the funny thing is that when after that had happened, remember,
and she's saying that must have been scary. I'm sorry you had to go through that at a young age.
It was petrifying because I thought my grave was going to be in the woods. So that's where it happened, in the woods, where nobody would be able to hear my screams. And I had to take every power within me, and also sending out my message to the all divine creator and stuff to
protect you,
protect me and help me, because so I had to talk my way. I had to convince these beings, or whatever, and try to get through to the humans that were there, to get past that, to reach in and somehow bring out their humanity back. And that's how I had to do it. It's the only way I could do it, because if not, I would not be alive today.
Right. So after that, did you just find your strength and that you were able to fight them off from then on out, so they didn't bother you? Is that what happened?
Yeah. Basically, that's what happened, because I thought to myself, how in the world did I survive this? How did I make it? Now, I did go into a terrible depression after that happened, naturally,
Right.
because I didn't have anybody to talk to. And it wasn't just that, but when the police and stuff that were involved in that, they got me alone in a room. They wouldn't let my parents in. And there was like 5 or 6, call them good old boy cops. And they were basically threatening me and intimidating me and telling me, and I was just a child, and they were telling me that if I tried to press charges and that, they were going to turn it, or that it would be turned around and I would be the one thrown in prison and all this. They thought my hips were broken. I mean, it was just because my hips I could hardly walk. After it happened, anytime I tried to take a step, I just wanted to die because my hips had swelled way out and everything. And
Well, White Dragon is saying, Monique, it takes a lot of strength to turn away from the dark to the light. That's because you are light at your core.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
sweet,
you.
White Dragon. Thank you.
So, and then, yeah, I'd gone into this terrible depression afterwards because I didn't have anybody to talk to. And the counselor that I managed to talk to, well, it was just like a couple days after the event, and I didn't want to relive it. It was so traumatic. And but then the next time around when I was able to see her, she says, I'm not going to be able to see you anymore because I'm being transferred. So I never got to, yeah. So I basically had to handle it all on my own. And the book I'm currently writing now, I talk of all this stuff, but my parents, I don't know how to explain this, and I love my parents and I forgive because everything, we're human. We have human filters and that kind of thing. They didn't understand why I didn't want to prosecute, why I didn't want to prosecute these guys, but I was being intimidated at every angle. But pretty much was my life. Bullied at school, bullied by the beings on the dark beings when I would sleep at night. Sometimes I'd go to school exhausted and that. So it's the same kind of thing happening. I was just getting bullied at every angle. So, and I had to somehow just be above it.
Yeah, Dream Journey One saying they sound complicit in some way to the dark, whether they knew it or not. The police.
Yeah. Yeah, they just it was a very, very, very traumatic experience. And I had actually, even at that, after that happened and that, it wasn't that I wanted to die, but I went through this phase of seeing how close to the threshold of death I could take myself. And so
what brought you out of the depression?
I believe it's my connection to our creator, the all divine, and my guides and everything. I could actually, one of the things that a lot of times it's like I can see this other dimension. I can see the beings and stuff. I can see my guides and things like that. And I think one time when I got so close to, I had slipped my wrists. And
what I'm
but I didn't slice them enough to. I just was
what I'm hearing from my guides is that you had to go through this experience to bring out the strength in yourself.
Yes, that's so true. That's so accurate. Yeah.
So it sounds like, and what they're telling me is they did a lot of different things and it was not working with you, and it took something that drastic to bring the strength out of you.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, people, they wonder, why did I go through this traumatic experience or that traumatic experience and that? But how do I put it? Unfortunately, we are going to have the bad along with the good, but it's all help to evolving our soul.
Yeah, we were talking about that behind the backstage about that sometimes you require the dark to be able to see the light.
To be able to see the light. And remember, from my early childhood, I've just been bombarded by bullies from everywhere, including the dark beings that were coming at night that I couldn't talk about.
Right. So you came out of the depression, and
Mhm.
then how old were you at that time?
I would have been, I was probably about 20 when I came out of it. And then it was like, then I got the, and that was good. But then I got a tick on me that was infected with Lyme. And then I started dealing with all that stuff.
And that was 20? That was when you were
Yeah, I was
20?
like 20 years old, and I didn't know. I didn't think you'd get Lyme in Florida because they didn't believe back then. Because we're talking 1991,
Right.
and you can't. No, you can't get Lyme in Florida. Well, guess what? And it's the only tick I've ever had on me in my life, and it
Oh,
had
wow.
it. Yeah, I got the whole slew of stuff: Lyme, Bartonella, Rickettsia, all that, and so then I was just having like one health issue after another, and I got into a string of bad relationships and everything because I just didn't have, you
Okay.
know, that confidence in me.
Right. Well,
So
let's get back to your experiences. So what happened after you came out of depression and you got Lyme and all these, but things are still going in the positive direction, correct?
yeah,
How you're
yes,
feeling, but
yes. Despite the bad choices I made with relationships, things really started to go better. Though I would say, um, once I left my second ex-husband, I started becoming more emboldened about, being a singer and that, because I have had years of voice training all throughout my life. But because I had always been bullied and everything, I never had the courage. And then it just took that one moment where uh, I think it was my sister that took me to a karaoke show and I sang for the first time. And I was so scared and get up there. But when the the way the audience had made me feel and everything, and then it just went on from there. And then later when I started singing, I actually started getting offered work through places. They were like, "We really like your voice. Can you, you know, be a karaoke DJ?" And it just started out like that, just in small steps. But the real happiness didn't come until, I hate to say it, after I went to Egypt, when my life really changed.
okay,
So
well, here's Hypnosis. She says, why does it seem that all star seeds and wayshowers have challenging life experiences? So what do you think your opinion of that, Monique?
I think it is. We talk about the empowering, or to, what's the word I'm looking for? To evolve us, not empowering, but to evolve us. And that, but I also think when you are so empathic and so caring, in that, those dark entities want to jump on that because they don't want to be brought to the light. And that's why it's so important. And it's so important that we allow people, not shut them up and say, you can't talk of that because you're focusing on that, or you must have done something to that. That's just victimizing them more.
Right.
So
Yes. So Hypnosis is also saying, she says, we are our survivors for sure. Yeah.
yes, has to be.
So can you talk about more? So now you've come into light, and what do you have any rituals now around you to make sure that you stay in the light, that you keep these negative beings away from you? Or I know you
Oh,
got, yeah, go ahead.
of course, I don't have it right here, but it's over on my dresser. I have, no, I have one here too. I have it all around my room. I have my trusty little sage.
Mhm.
I also do prayers of protection all the time. I think too, it's because I kind of did turnaround because I got used to all this stuff,
Right.
that I kind of lost a lot of that fear. And now I've just been like, you know what? And I'm because I've always been feeling like this being told to me, my downloads and my messages all the time of, be firm, have conviction with your words, and, you know, let them know.
Basically, if anything negative comes around, you can go, boo, get out of here. Of course,
Oh yeah.
I
And
say a
I've,
lot harsher. I say it a lot harsher than that.
yeah. And trust me, while the dream stopped, okay, after that very violent assault, the trying to inflict fear on me in different ways did not. Um, Luckily, in these recent years, I haven't had to deal with it so much, but I had another incident and actually had detectives coming looking for me because they thought I was a woman who had been, I don't know how they got my business card, and they said they couldn't disclose it. It's a cold case. And it was from when I was doing my shows. My father and I had started a karaoke business, and I started hosting karaoke shows around all the different places in Florida, and my name was being put up on the marquee and everything. But I was always having weird stuff happen at these shows. But I had one incident where it was so strange. It was 2 days before the detectives approached me. I had this group of people come in, and remember, like I said, I can really, really feel when energy shifts. And I felt this really dark energy as these people came in, like it just stabbed me in the gut. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was getting these images that they had done something really, really bad. I didn't know what it was, but it was really bad. And so I'm like, okay, I've got to focus on my show. So I turn around and I'm going and I'm trying to get my CDs ready for my singers and that. And all of a sudden I feel someone behind me, and I turn around and it was, I guess, the lead guy from that group that made me feel, and my heart's going like this in my chest. And I'm hearing in my head, whatever you do, be strong, don't show fear. Right. So I'm like, okay. And the next thing I know, and I'll bleep out the word, but he said, I bet I can F with you. And I just stood there firm and I said, I don't think so. And right after I said that, his eyes went completely black, not a bit of white showing. And this is going on at my karaoke show, okay? This guy's saying this. And while I stood there and was very firm in that, it did something, because all of a sudden he got, I made him uncomfortable, and he was like, and he had just gone back to normal. And,
like you didn't lower your vibration to where he could do anything.
Right. And so he was like, I'm just kidding. And he went back to sit down, and then they seemed normal. It was weird because when they first came in, there was just this real, like they had done something terrible, but then things switched to normal. And then 2 days later is when, because I was off the day in between, and then I go to my next show, and it was in Leesburg, and my boss, or not my boss, but the place I was doing the show at, he approached me and he said, he says, 2 detectives came in looking for you. Well, I was like, yeah, right. Joking with me or something. He said, no, I'm serious. And he had me go back to his office. He said, here's their card. And apparently what had happened was, a girl of my, because I didn't know until I couldn't call. It was the weekend. I was like, well, I'm gonna have to wait till Monday to call. So I called on a Monday, and I said, I was told to call you guys. And the lady was like, okay, let me put you through to such and such detectives. And okay. And they started asking me a series of questions. And they were like, asking me, do you have blonde hair? I said, yes. It's pink now, but it was blonde. And what's your height? And I told them my height and my weight and all that, because they said, they kind of like knew my height and weight, and it was all within it's all describing me, right? And then he said, now, do you have any tattoos on you? One of a dolphin and one of a sun. And I said, I don't have any tattoos on me. And then the next thing is like, he paused a second. And he said, thank God you're alive. And I'm like, well, gee, thank you. I'm glad to be alive too. And I said, what is this all about? And he said, well, I can't go into too much detail, but he said, we found a body in the Ocala National Forest that was decapitated. I guess they found her head or whatever. And we are glad to know it wasn't you. And I was like, well, I'm glad too. And I said, but how did you find out about me? You have one of my business cards with, you know, did the girl have my business card? He says, we can't disclose that to you. So
is this in your book, all this?
yeah, yep. I go into all this and all the stuff I went through.
Your first book or second book, or like the first book is about what and versus your second book?
Okay, no, that's not in these books. These books here on Sobek are totally different. I turned it into kind of a fantasy romance, but there's a lot of truths in those books. This is a book I'm currently writing. And the funny thing is, I was terrified to talk about this for years because for my safety and that, but it's been a long time. It was 1998 when it happened. I actually was able to find it still on the Orlando Sentinel because it never got solved. It's cold case. But it's, I had people, different friends, and they've been like, when they've been hearing about my different experiences, because, you know, they know a lot more things, and they're like, you really need to write a book about your life. But I was so conflicted about that because I also didn't want it to appear like if I'm writing about my life, it's the, oh, woe is me kind of thing. You know, I didn't want it to appear like, you know, I was, but
we only have about 15 minutes left. So
okay.
How did you go from the darkness to the light and to stay in the light? Are you using all your protections, or how does that happen? You got your guys helping you?
Definitely. All of that. I'm using my protection. I do meditation. I love going out in nature and meditating. I've just got this really strong connection like I never had before. So,
so what happens if something else dark shows up? What happens at that time?
Well, I'm going to stand up to it.
Okay.
You know, that's it. That's been my only choice.
Well, and that is your only choice, but it is that they do show up, and they show up in different forms as your light gets brighter out there. And so I didn't know how you were handling that at this time.
Yeah. I'm handling it a lot different now. Besides standing up and that, I'm also trying to surround myself with people who, and it's not that I was hanging out with negative people or you know what I'm saying, intentionally, but if I feel that people are not raising my vibration and making me feel, then I kind of like distance myself from them. So doing a lot of that and just trying to keep, you know.
This is good. White Dragon saying, in order to turn away, one must recognize it's dark. This is the first step. I'm so happy for Monique for doing that. So,
thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, that is congratulate you from being able to move from the dark, because so many people can't or don't. And as you pointed out, not able to talk about it. And we're trying to allow people to come out and talk about it now, or at least and be in the background, listen. I usually have people stay in the background and listen first, and then they'll kind of start tiptoeing out a little bit and comfortable. And that's what this is about. And you've also have just started your own podcast with Aurora. Yeah. She's in the chat today. Hi, Aurora. Is
Aurora here?
So tell them about your podcast.
Yeah. So basically, our podcast, we want to give people the voice who never have had the chance to have their voice, whether it be through paranormal and.
I'm going to interrupt. let them know what your podcast name is. So
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I just get ahead of myself here. Third Eye Sister Souls.
Third Eye Sister Souls.
Yeah. And
Is
Aurora.
is it a third spelled out THIRD, or is it a three
Yes.
RD?
No, it's a THIRD, Third Eye Sister
Aurora,
Souls.
you're here. Why don't you go ahead and write that in for us?
Yes, please, Aurora, because my brain is like I didn't sleep well last night. My computer had to be on all night because I was trying to upload our first podcast, and it's noisy as heck. But it was the only way. I had to keep it running, and so I had a horrible night of sleep because all I could hear was that stupid computer. So that I could make sure that I could upload our first, and it's on YouTube right now on my YouTube channel, Mojo's Fire, MOJOSFIRE.
Let me spell it. MO what?
JOSFIRE.
FIRE.
Yes.
Okay, MOJOSFRIE. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Mojo's Fire, and I have all sorts of
This is your YouTube
different videos.
channel.
But this is my first one though, because the other is stuff like I made for stories. I have stuff from years ago that's up there, recipes, everything, food things, and so so it's a bit of a mixture on there. But that's the channel I've uploaded it to.
So
and,
that's
and on my Facebook.
Did you upload it? Does Aurora have a channel also? Or is it
Aurora does have a channel. She said she was going to be uploading it, and my husband is going to be uploading it too. So,
okay. So your husband has a channel also.
yes, he does.
All right, now go ahead and describe the channel. So now that they're knowing about it.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that on the you know how they have the board, you can have the border at the top or whatever. You will actually see my book cover. I put the top part of my book, the book cover on the border, and so you'll see where it says Mojo's Fire. I don't remember. It published author or whatever.
There's Aurora, because she will open it on Facebook, not her YouTube channel. So she's doing it on Facebook.
On Facebook. Okay. Yeah. I put it on Facebook, but I had to be careful because I had to limit, I couldn't make it just all the way public because I have some of my families, who aren't there yet.
Your Facebook is your name, right? Or
yes,
so you can find it for you.
Yes, mine is Monique Brunette, and so you'd be able to see it, and my picture with my pink hair.
Okay. There's White Dragon Monique. You're a way shower that can, and it can be done. Kudos. So,
thank you.
yeah. So, I mean, that is a lot that you've gone through, and your channel is talking about letting people who are experiencing things like this and experiencing ET or any kind of experiences to come on your channel and talk about it like you're doing here. You're just the exact same.
Yeah, and they can be anonymous too, because some people might not feel comfortable, and we'll be happy to share their story. It's anything ET, UFO, paranormal related in that, because what we've been finding is sometimes it's like you hear about all these the great and woo-woo and wonderful and all loving beings, and the same kind of people are not same people, but same kind of people with only those type of stories seems to be all at the forefront. And then the people who are feeling, isolated. And I explain this in that it's like, this is how this is something I really want to mention here. This is how, what the humans do, say a domestic violence situation, and you have somebody who's got narcissistic traits, and one of the key things that they do is to isolate you from your family, your friends, and the world, right? And these entities work the same way. Well, and so that's why it's important to give a voice to people.
Right. To give a voice, but we have been programmed, which was one of my announcements on my last show, I think, or the show before, was that we had been programmed since the 40s and 50s not to talk about it, that we were crazy, something was wrong with us. And
Right.
that's how we've been programmed. And now it's time for everybody to start coming out, just so your neighbors, your friends, or whatever has somebody to talk to. It doesn't mean like you have to come out here in public on my
Right.
channel or your channel, but just letting people know that you might be the one that's dealing with these things, and making it okay for them to talk about it also. But also,
Definitely.
if you wanted to come on my channel also, it is real easy to not have your camera, not have your face, just hearing your voice. It's real easy to do that if someone's wanting to come on anonymously and do that kind of thing. So you don't have to put your name out there. You don't, and it's
Exactly.
to to black out your face, whatever, to not have the camera going. So, but anyway, Monique, thanks for coming on and opening
Thank
your
you.
heart up and sharing your stories. And again, we show everybody the 2 books that you have out there so they can see and go ahead and buy them if they're interested in buying those books. Can you show them again? Can you get your books and show them
Sure.
again?
Okay.
And say,
So this
say
is the first book of the series.
it's kind of dark, so say the name of it.
When Life and Dreams Meet.
Okay.
And it's got the Sobek with the blonde on the book.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the second book.
The second book is Sobek's Return.
Okay.
Okay. And then, oops, here. The third book is Rise, Story of a Demigod.
Okay. So those are the 3 books that are out now, and you're writing your 4th book.
Yes, my 4th book is going to be a biography of my life.
Okay.
So that's what it is.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being here, and thanks for
Thank
coming,
you.
sharing your story, and just stay on. I'm getting ready to end the stream. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody, and thanks for making
Thank
this
you.
a safe place, moderators. Thank you, everybody. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.